Good morning. Good morning. Doing good. It's beautiful out. We're expecting some snow up here in the mountains, so we're excited about possibly they're talking about a foot. So we're hoping that that comes true.
Cool. So, tell us a little about who you are, Frankie, and your business, and what do you guys do in the wedding industry?
I'm Frankie Ortega, and I am the owner of Shay Meadows Ranch and Resort. We are a wedding venue up here in Big Bear. We've been rolling, let's see, we started in 2015. We purchased the property back in 2014, but we started events in 2015. And then ever since then, we kind of slowly started booking, and now we're pretty much booked a year ahead, which is a true blessing. And I think that that's kind of part of that reason is what we offer. So we don't just do a 6 hour rental for a wedding venue, we do a weekend.
How have you done it like the other way around, where you just do one like the day of, and have you seen the difference from doing the day of versus the whole weekend?
We have had a couple of smaller elopement events that were just a day. We do price it if people don't want to have the accommodations, but we kind of do a little bit different. I think there's only a few of us in SoCal that do it as far as wedding venues. Um, we offer a whole weekend. So we book for Friday, Saturday. We have had a couple of elopements and micro weddings that have come in and they kind of want to base the package without the accommodations. To be quite honest, I think we've only had like two that did not book the whole ranch. Because with booking the wedding venue and, obviously the grounds, the ceremonies, tables and chairs, everything that comes with it, we offer accommodations. So in our package, the basic package starts at 17. That also is a huge package of having accommodations for up to 42 to 60 people to sleep on site. Sometimes we get up to 100 people that can sleep on site. So we just felt that it was a very big value for families to enjoy and then to come in and take a little bit more time to, enjoy that whole experience.
And to clarify, it's 17,000, right?
Our package starts at 17,000. We've
Not
kind of grown.
1,700.
What's
I was
that?
like, not 1,700.
No.
So to avoid confusion.
Yeah, no, and I don't really, and we kind of base it on packages and it's not, I know some people are like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. But if you go anywhere to book an Airbnb for 40 people, you're going to spend quite a lump sum just housing those folks for the weekend. So we kind of did a big combo package and there's 5 houses on site. You can rent the other ones that aren't involved in the package, or you don't have to. But we keep the weekend for you exclusive either way. So it's not like we would have people in and out of here that shouldn't be for your weekend.
So let us know like how you were able to start the business. Like how were you able to get it going? How were you able to get it from the ground up?
Man, this is it. It kind of is this big whirlwind. When we bought the hotel, the venue in 14, we did not know we were going to get into weddings. But I was originally working with fire department, and my husband's a builder, so we've always done construction. But my son wanted to get married in 2015, and looking at venues and their costs, I was floored about the prices of venues. And I get it now that we're running a venue and how they kind of price it and what they do, but we like to offer a little bit more. So we wanted more enjoyment for our families. So we started, once he got married, we were getting calls and we were able to house everybody on site with the hotel. And so that combo of being able to enjoy a whole weekend was really value for me and my family because we wanted more time. So we decided to do something a little different and offer that for our brides and grooms and couples that come in.
So at first it was just letting people just stay over there for the weekend, and then it evolved into having brides and grooms.
Well, my son wanted to get married. So
Okay.
we were looking at venues, pricing things, kind of going through stuff, and came across it. I was like, "You're out of your mind." I think it's the I appreciate what venues do, and I know that they do a day, but we wanted something more that was more enjoyable for our family. We wanted to spend time with everybody, and so that concept kind of slowly kind of started taking off, and then now we are booked a year ahead.
So you basically use your son's wedding to get it kind of started, right?
It was our first run through, so that example, when we built the ranch wasn't at what it is now. Then that's what kind of got us started. Um, so we kind of jumped in after that, had a couple of the houses remodeled, and then laid the grounds at the beginning. Over time, we've obviously done more improvements and build on the menu, but that's really what it was. I mean, his wedding was that, the starter of how the ranch began as far as continuing with the weddings. The venue's always had a event. It's always been a venue in a hotel, but it was really small, really run down. And so we just wanted to kind of improve that and start making it bigger and bigger. And now I, I just do the wedding venue only. We're so busy, which is a blessing. I mean, we're super grateful, but I was doing both jobs. And then as this took off, I was like, wow, I really got to get over there and take care of this. The ranch is pretty historic. It's got a long history way back to the 1800s. His wedding kind of laid the blueprint for how the ranch is laid out. We kind of worked together. We were just thinking we were just gonna, make it nice for the kids and throw them a phenomenal weekend for their wedding. And we started creating the ceremony area with the kids. We created the reception area. So they kind of actually helped us kind of put the blueprint down on how the ranch kind of logistically sets. But yeah, his was the first. We enjoyed it, and then we just kind of opened it up. We started a little bit of marketing on social media, and ever since then, it's kind of just taken off.
And then like as of right now, how are you like currently getting the bookings? Is it mostly through social media?
A lot of social media, a lot of Instagram. It, marketing can be quite expensive depending on what you get into.
Mhm.
Um, First it was, that was my, and believe me, because I'm super boomer, as the kids would all say. But when we started, I was like, you know what, I'll just kind of show some stuff on Instagram. I'll kind of build it through that, see how we kind of see if we can get some couples and see if that is an interest for other families that they want to do that. So a lot of our marketing is on Instagram. Not only is it just the marketing, and a couple of other social platforms. We just kind of jumped into YouTube. We just jumped into a little bit of TikTok. That's not, it's a little bit different kind of, every platform's got a kind of different little avenue that you got to work through. But most of it is Instagram, and it was part of our marketing. But I really like to show also on Instagram everything we do, just because brides and couples can get a view of what it looks like here. We do only run May through November. So we are dormant or closed for events during the winter, but we are open vacation rentals. But when we tour couples and it's on our off season, it's frozen in the mountains and cold and not as green and lush. So I try to use a lot of Instagram and marketing so that brides can see what we do. I don't know. It's like, how you see something and you can imagine your day or your wedding, kind of, it's an emotional attachment, I think. I think once you see what we've done before or past brides, I think that helps also brides curate their own kind of idea of what they want. So it's nice to kind of put all that in. We have a big 10-acre property, so we kind of built this really great blank canvas where you can just have your wedding really simple and elegant, or you can bring in a lot of extra, photo buses and trailers, and it's just a lot of different avenues that we can go into.
To provide like a way for couples to kind of envision themselves over there as well. Do you guys make your own content, or do you reach out to like other vendors like photographers and videographers to send you some content from other weddings?
A lot of the content comes from a lot of the photographers, the videographers that come in and shoot the weddings. We do build our own content. It is a difficult little thing to do, sit in front of a camera or thinking of ways to kind of expose and show people different curated events is a little challenging, but we try to just plug in and make it as fun as we can and show them what we do.
But you get a lot of like free content from like the photographers and videographers. They just reach out to you and say, "Hey, here's some footage that you can use."
Correct. And if we haven't touched base with them, usually we have a great communication. And that's another key thing that we'll talk about. They usually will send us their information. And I think they do have, most of you guys have your own release as far as videographer and content creating, correct? You guys have a release form that brides and couples release their photos?
Yeah, well, for me, I think mine's probably very common with a lot of other videographers. I know for me, like I tell them that they can use the footage disperse it wherever they like. If it has to be with like for commercial use, that I just need to be aware about it and I have to be involved because I have to know what it's for. Like if it's for a wedding venue, I just say, "Oh yeah, here's a footage. Go ahead and use it." But I know, like for example, a marketing agency wanted to use one of my clips for a commercial they were doing for Covered California. For something like that, like I had to work out a deal with them, which they were going to pay me for. So we did a contract with them. It in every situation is different. So but usually a lot of the times, if it's like a wedding venue, I'm like more than happy to just give them the footage. But it's always good to kind of keep the the photographer or the videographer aware that, like tag them, let them know, hey, we're gonna use your footage or something like that. But
Yeah,
um,
that's a very big deal. I think if we use anybody's content, and I believe pretty much every video or photo that we use, we tag them in everything that we do. We usually, I have a phenomenal coordinator. She, Heather with Willow Tree Weddings, she will create a whole handle for each wedding, and we will have everybody's handle on there, whether it's the caterer, the bride, the groom, the photographer. We make sure that we tag all of them because it's a respect. Not only is it
mhm.
their information, but it's a good respect to like good business.
Yeah,
We appreciate them being here. We want to show their beautiful work, but at the same time, that's their work, and we want to make sure that they are stamped on that because it is their work.
yeah. It's like someone's painting. You kind of, if you're gonna have their painting, they're gonna sign it in the bottom corner or something like that.
Well, you can get yourself, you can also get into some legalities.
Yeah.
You can get yourself, you don't want to be using someone's content without the approval, just because if you don't have their approval, other issues could arise from that.
There's been a few times where I've noticed like a venue posted the video that I sent out and they didn't tag me and I usually would just send them a message like, "Hey, I just noticed you uploaded the video I made for the couple. Can you go ahead and tag me on that, please?"
But
Like in a
right, and
nice
then,
way.
yeah, and if you see something or read mistaken, I'm like, oh gosh, definitely we'll go back and make sure that that's corrected because it is their work. I
Yeah.
would want someone to ask me and also use footage from mine, and I would love that. I think everybody in the industry is pretty much, you know, mostly wanting to build and share that content and grow from that. So I think that everybody's pretty much on the same page, but I'm sure that there's a few in between that are like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know, I'm not doing that.
Or some people are still learning and still trying
Yeah.
to learn like what's a norm in the industry. I've heard some videographers in like Facebook group question like, should I share my content with the venue? The venue's asking for my footage. Should I do that? Or should I charge them? And then there's like a whole thread of comments of everybody saying, yes, definitely share your work with them.
Charge them, huh? I guess that would be, I guess if you have you ever had to charge?
No, I don't charge venues. And everything's case by case because there's been a few times where it's like for commercial use, like it's non-wedding related, or there was a marketing agency that reached out asking to use my footage for a Covered California commercial, so I charged
Mhm.
them for that. There's also been some people that run like another business that wanted to use my content, but most of the time I don't charge.
Nice.
There have been people that ask me to do other stuff for them, like, hey, can you come out here and film this and stuff like that? And there's been times where I'm like, okay, it sounds like we're doing a commercial, so
Right.
when it sells shoots, it's a different story. But when it comes across like as we're not promoting weddings now, we're promoting properties, and I've done real estate, a lot of real estate photos and videos, and that's where I'm like, okay, well, this seems like I would probably charge for something like that.
I would agree too, because that's a little different than just the content and doing some short reels. I mean, they're definitely going in and real estate and content. That's just a whole different game. So that should be charged.
Yeah, yeah.
Your time is worth money.
And I've done a lot of real estate properties because of that situation too. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
I
yeah.
bet.
Yeah, I actually have a whole like portfolio of real estate properties, even like houses now. So yeah, some realtors that's actually asked me, "Hey, I have a property. I need to be photographed and filmed. Would you be able to do that?" So yeah, even some clients that were also realtors have actually hired me to photograph and film some properties and everything. So
I think that it's definitely one of my favorite. I love video. I love the videos. I love the drone work. I think the technology and everything. I'm sure that you're experiencing that. I mean, I think that when drones first came out, they were a little bit different. Now they've come so customized and so IT. It's amazing what they capture. I think the biggest thing I've seen recently is we were doing a little bit of shoot through the ranch, and we were taking a drone with the company that I was working with, and they were droning the whole house, which is really neat because you get a little bit more of a flow than just the photos.
from inside the house.
Yes.
Oh, they were using an FPV drone with the goggles.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
And it's just a crazy. And we did shoot a commercial, and we had a production company, and then one of the affiliates that was with them working came in, and he was on the other side of the ranch and actually flew in for the sliding doors of my house here where we're filming right now, flew in, went downstairs, came back up, and then back out the doors after shooting the whole house. And we're talking, he was 10 acres away on the other side of the property. So the technology is great. It shoots great footage. It covers a lot, of the natural, beautiful mountains. It just is it's just phenomenal. It's one of my favorites. Is videography, cinematography is one of my favorites as well as photos. But when
So,
you mentioned, that was funny that you mentioned that you charged for that commercial. We were covered. We had a beautiful bride this last year that was here, and she did a cover, or she had a really unique story and why she wanted a certain date and celebrate that. And we did get covered with People Magazine. Now, we didn't charge because it was her
oh,
story.
yeah.
So, and we really couldn't charge, but we were super excited just to be covered by People Magazine and that we got that feature in the magazine. Although it was kind of a little bit of a bummer that, they only tag so many, there's a whole list of things that you go through when you're releasing the stuff for, commercials, magazines, and how it's written up and who's got credit. So we were super grateful to be covered in that, but I could see how if you're going to be doing the work and you're showing it, you definitely should charge.
As someone like me who's already been doing weddings and I've been done like corporate work for like over a decade, and you got to look at everything case by case because sometimes is it worth doing it, for free if it's going to help you build that relationship? Is it going to,
Right.
if it helps them, it helps you. At the same time, is a lot of people in the video and photo industry, they've already experienced being taken advantage of for a long time. So then
Yeah.
we've had to learn how to navigate around that sometimes where we're not being taken advantage too many times.
And do you think like the taken advantage of is the thought of, hey, we're going to publicize it, we're going to use that, and then you do it for free. It ends up taking you 12 hours of work
Yeah,
of
that's the bigger.
non-paid, and the promises of, we're going to show that, we're going to really build it, we're going to
Yeah,
blast it all over, and then you've done all this work, and I think sometimes our expectations might be a little bit higher, and you're like, hey, I thought you were going to share that.
yeah, that's actually something that I've learned as well too, is there's a lot of people that want us to do things for free in return that it was going to help our business. Like they can say, hey, we can tag you and or we have a lot of contacts, we have a lot of networks, and you spend so much time doing something for this company or this business or this social media influencer, and it
Yeah.
really got you nowhere. And all your time that could have been used somewhere else was just I would say kind of wasted in a way. Some benefit of it is that you at least got to collaborate with someone, but when you do that for so many people and so many times, it's like how many more people do you really need to keep doing that for?
Well, and it's I think that it's great and you can use
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
content, but at the same time, I do have to work, you got to pay bills. So,
Yeah.
you got to you got to also make money. So I think it's, that hand in hand, like, yeah, maybe I would be able to carve out some of that time and offer that for, some of that social or advertising. At the
Hmm.
same time, I think you learn over time, like, it can only be so much before, you know, you really are to the point where, like, hey, we really got to charge for a certain amount of time. We really appreciate all the business and the definitely the advertisement, but yeah, I think it's case by case, definitely.
Hmm.
And you learn a little bit more each time.
The next one is what should vendors avoid doing at your venue or at any venue?
I think what vendors, we were looking at the notes on some of that, and I think that vendors' biggest thing to not do is not communicate. Um, and also, it may seem really small, but check the timeline. I think the biggest thing as far as like communications for vendors is, what insurances are being available. Where's your business license? I think that without communication, I think it's key for a big team to work together. I'm a venue, so when we work with each event, I mean, we have how many vendors that show up? We've got a DJ, we've got photographers, we've got videographers, we've got catering, we've got all these vendors that are coming through. So we try to really, really get ahead of the game and make sure that everybody's on point. Where are you dropping off? Where are you taking your equipment? Where do you not want to come into? Where are you not going to go into? We don't really cap a lot on our vendors of where they can and can't go, especially photographers and videographers. We really want them to really create whatever they want because they have such an artistic eye. Sometimes they'll shoot or do something that I never even thought was going to happen, or that I didn't have like a vision of that. It's definitely, you guys are it's a very unique, it's a really, really huge art. And to be able to capture that and those visions. So we want them to really be able to fly and be able to do whatever they want because we love that the brides are so happy with their content. That's only good for everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you feel that they should just some of their maybe some of their struggles would be to try to communicate a little bit more and they're not communicating
I
enough.
think that, them not knowing the lay of the land, maybe just communication. Hey, we're, maybe ahead of the time, plan a little bit more. We do have a really good list. So we work with a lot of good professionals. Even off of our list, we work with great professionals. But I think communication is key, whether you're communicating it to the bride, back to the venue. I think that whole pool of whatever is going on really needs to be this big working. I don't know what the word for that is either. I just think that it's a communication with anything is going to be key. You're going to alleviate a lot of problems. You're going to alleviate the no's, right? You're going to know what you're not going to be able to do, not and can do. Not that there's much here at the ranch, but I think that communication with a lot of the other vendors is only proactive for a perfect day for our couples.
Yeah, yeah. That part I can't agree with you anymore. That's you're so on point with that. Um like yeah, I
Give me
think
an example, like what, like you've gone into.
I would say just well as part of that I think there's a lot of videographers they'll post something that they struggled with as far as time as well. They didn't have enough time to move from the the couple sessions when it's the private time and they don't have enough time to go from there to the grand entrance. I've heard people talk about that saying that they struggled going from one place to the next place. Like everything's so tight on schedule. So the advice that a lot of people would give them is just learn how to be flexible and to adjust. So have a game plan for that. And I've learned just over time as like with videos, like the biggest thing for me is to have a second shooter because after
Mm.
ceremony, at most weddings, after ceremony, they're gonna go to family portraits, and then they're gonna go to the couple's private time portraits, and then they're gonna go to the grand entrance. And I might have gear and tripods that needs to be moved from one spot to the next location, and I can't do that while I'm doing the family and the couple. So I have a second shooter that will help me move some stuff around and have everything ready for what's going to happen next on the timeline. We
Right,
have to
because
get
you're pivoting. I mean, you're pivoting in a lot of directions
ready.
all at once. I mean, once ceremony's done, boom, they're going down the aisle. You're still shooting the kisses from that, producing cocktail hours going on. You're trying to grab, and not only are you trying to get to that other space, right? Because we've seen it here. You're trying to get to that other space. You're also trying to get all those families and those people that are supposed to be in those photos. And Uncle Fred's over at the bar and having snacks, and you're
Yeah.
like, wait, you gotta, I need you. So no, I think that that's important to I'm sure it might even drive up the cost a little bit, or that might be a little bit of different pricing maybe for couples, but it behooves to have all that extra hand. I know and we're not even photographers, we have 4 to 6 staff that we have on site the day of just to make sure that we're able to pivot, move,
Mhm.
adjust to any issues that are coming on and take care of things that are going around.
Yeah.
It's a moving project all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, you always got to be ready for pivoting and you got to be ready for not having enough time. You got to know what to do when you don't have enough time. People ask all the time like how they get on vendor lists. So I don't know if you even do a vendor list or anything, but I
We
hear
do. We have a preferred vendor list. It doesn't mean that you have to use them. Um, we do have a preferred vendor list. We'd love to have those recommended vendors. You are, when you book with us, able to use outside vendors, as long as they have a license and a GL policy, because that's part of our policies to be on site. So we do have a preferred vendor list. We do vet it each year. We just kind of go through, make sure everybody's operating really great, and providing the best service. The thing about, I think, the misconcept I think that sometimes people think about as far as a vendor list or a preferred vendor list is that there's this inner tie maybe or some kind of a kickback on the back end if you're on it. It's really not. I get a phenomenal professional when using our vendors just because we know that they're bringing their game. One of the biggest and most important thing is to make sure that the bride's day goes without a hitch. And so when you're working with professionals and our preferred vendors, we know that they're getting that. I couldn't recommend a vendor that I don't know because I don't know how their work is.
Mhm.
We did have, was it last year? We had a vendor came in, they were the bar vendor. We did pull them off of the list, but they forgot the ice.
Okay.
So it's it's just when you're recommending to these brides and these couples and they're spending the amount of money that they are to make their perfect wedding weekend, we want to make sure that those professionals are also providing that service because we're recommending them. So
Yeah.
if they fail and they look bad, the venue looks bad because we're the ones that are recommending them.
So you
In
want someone,
hindsight, yeah, and in hindsight, I couldn't control, obviously when they got here that they didn't have the ice. Thank God we have a lot of resources. I work with a great vendor up here and he can deliver ice with the phone call away. We do vet that list and make sure that those professionals are bringing their best game and providing a great service to our couples. And simply to be on our preferred vendor list is show up a couple times, get booked, or we can, introduce you to couples and then bring you on.
Mhm.
We're pretty open. We work with a lot of great professionals and we bring them on just by tasting their food or, showcasing their content or their professionalism when they're on site. Most important is that they're bringing that to the bride and the groom for their day.
Okay,
So
cool.
we're pretty open. I mean, it's not hard to get on the list, but you definitely gotta make sure that you're good at what you do.
Yeah. And someone with,
Not, I mean, what you're hiring someone, you want to make sure that they're professional and that they can provide that service that they're hired for.
yeah, 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 because that's gonna reflect on you guys.
And not only, to come back on us because we're recommending them, but then it reflects on every vendor working.
Yeah.
I think we're all here for the same thing, and that's to provide this great service, a phenomenal event and wedding for our couples. Yeah, let's work as a big team and make sure that happens. I was looking at one of the questions, I think that it was red flags for a venue.
Well, I have another question that later says, "What's a red flag in the couple?"
What's there? That's not mixed it.
Yeah.
I can say I'm not, I know that venues have some regulations where I might not have that same regulation,
Mhm.
or something a little bit lighter as far as I think the toughest thing is I think I've heard a couple things like respecting the venue's property. Um, I think that when you come in and host and you've got families and everything, we usually don't have anything that can't be taken care of as far as respecting or damaging the property. We obviously have policies and damage and deposits that you put forth. And those should take care of that. As far as other venues, I haven't had a big chance to talk to a lot of venues on what their biggest problem would be.
Well, as far as respecting property, is it from the couples and their family, or is it from other vendors?
The vendors are usually pretty good. I've never had a vendor that's disrespectful. They come in, we have a whole list and a timeline when they're coming in, so we definitely can navigate that. I think that it's more of not necessarily the bride and the groom because they sign a contract, right? So they know what they're responsible for. They know that they're responsible for damages. But because we do house people for the weekend, they're not watching every single one of their friends that are in another house, whether they accidentally break a window or, really damage something that's, has to be replaced at a cost
Mhm.
that their hands are kind of tied because they're not watching all these folks. And it's a basic, damage deposit that you would, want to make sure that you have. But it would be maybe the outside family that
Mhm.
are here having a good time that, it's most of the time pretty innocent. Whether we had one guy that was super funny. And he told me the next day they came in, they had rehearsal, and thank God, most important is that he wasn't hurt. He went in and he went to kind of lean in, and it was a family friend, and they're in the pool room, the game room, and he went to lean in on a window where the window popped and broke. Thank God his hands didn't go through and he didn't, cut himself up because safety is the most important. And we were able to repair it pretty quickly without, any issues. But I think damaged property, and then you can't control a lot of the other people that are around. But in that couple is still responsible for those damages.
Yeah. So it's usually like someone that's like not the immediate family. It's gonna be like someone else, maybe a plus one or something like that.
Plus one, an extra girlfriend, some family friends that came in, not thinking about stuff, and who's responsible. But it's usually pretty innocent and not direct, like damage on purpose. It's usually an accident or just not thinking things through. I think I'd actually, I can go back a little bit, Ryan. I think one of the, which I've got kids, love grandkids, are kids. I think that's probably one of the hardest things for venues. And kids are innocent, so they don't know. They're on site. You've got a beautiful koi pond. They're throwing rocks, and the pond, or they're damaging the liners. It's fun to have all the families and the kids, but also you got to have those kids supervised. And I think now that I think about, we were talking about that, I did have one venue that was like, gosh, we really love having all the families, but you've got these couples that come in for the event and they're having a great time. Um, so sometimes they're having too good of a time and they forget that the littles are running around. I think that would probably be one. And then maybe another one might be as far as liquor and liability and people getting pretty tossed up by the end of the night. So I think that might be also probably one of the other venue flags that you kind of
So
work through.
who do you think would cause more damage? Like the drunk friends, or like who should people try to like watch more, the kids or the drunk friends?
Now leave the drunk friends to the venue and security. And just make sure that you just kind of, I think it's an all around team effort. I think that you try to make sure that the kids are having something fun to do, and that you keep the drunk friends at least somewhat wrangled into the area they're supposed to be in.
So the drunk friends need more supervision, right?
Most of the time. Most, sometimes, but it's never ever to the point. I can tell you that we've had, if we've had an issue or someone's a little bit, on the other side, the biggest conversation, if security or the bar walks up to me and lets me know that this might be, something that's coming as an issue. Usually a good conversation with that individual and some water and some food usually goes a long way. But it's definitely a technique to go over there and de-escalate that situation. Say, hey, we're kind of on this side. You can't be on this side. So let's kind of manage and make sure that we're giving our couple the best day ever.
So the next one is the story you told me yesterday. Tell me, talk about that content creator and that videographer story.
Which one? The one that really wasn't
Uh,
excited to talk, or that was
yeah, you said something about content. You had an experience with a content creator and a videographer being a little bit rude or something like that. Like they thought.
yeah, yeah. We have, it's a big day, right? I start at 8 o'clock. We've got hair and makeup coming in. So the doors, we're rolling pretty early. I try to touch base with every vendor as well as our coordinator. Obviously, the logistics of the whole day are going. So we sometimes have vendors that come in because they're not on our list, and they'll come in and obviously, be there for the event. We did meet a content creator, and I try to introduce myself, let them know if they need anything, where's the bathroom, if we're here, staff is here, let us know if you need anything. So I approached this one content creator, and it was a videographer and a content creator. And we walked up and I was like, hey, let me know. I'm Frankie, if you need anything on site or anything, we're here to help. Like nothing. It was like the most, it was just so rude. I was like, wow, we're here just to help you and have that great day.
Was it like a
But
stoic
this,
face?
what's that?
Do they have like a stoic face?
Yeah, it was pretty like, I'm here and I'm creating. You probably, it was kind of like one of those bougie moments where it was like, don't you know who I am? And I was like, I don't know who you are, but I'm here to help and we'd love to have you. But it definitely creates it was kind of funky. It was a little bit rude. I still, actually, I don't even know if I ever got the footage from that. And I can't remember that I even asked for it, because after that, it felt so uncomfortable that they were so bougie. Are
Ooh.
you there? Sorry. It's moving around, but um yeah, it was quite oh, I laughed because either way we're here and you may not be here again. But at the same time, it was just kind of one of those things. It was just, we're here to help you and to have a great, event for our couples. I don't know why it was one of those moments where it was, she was pretty bougie and he was pretty bougie and didn't want to communicate with us and didn't really care that we were here to help. So it was a little bit, not the best manners, but it's not going to stop our day. And we had a phenomenal event. It just was funny that, here they are and you want to expand, you would want to have good business all around.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. The last one is let us know like what are red flags in a couple?
Couple. I don't have a lot of, I don't have really any red flag. I think let me go back. I think the only red flag that, I had to really kind of take adhesive to, or at a couple, is, and I booked them. It wasn't really necessarily a red flag. It was guiding on a couple of different issues. We had a couple that came in that was going to do a non-alcoholic bar. So for me, I'm like, okay, you're having a wedding, but there's no alcohol. So you're not going to have alcohol here. And part of our policy is if you're having alcohol, you have to have licensed servers, bars, everything that our policy requires. And so at first, when I booked them, it was a little bit younger of a couple. So I thought, and they seemed very, what's the word? They just didn't, they said they don't drink.
Hmm.
So we booked them and I said, okay, 100%. So you're not having a bar. I just want to clarify, because if we do, once we book you and we get up to that event, we have to have this stuff on site. You have to have a server and all of our policies and everything that goes with that. And they were like, no, 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 we're not having a bar. So Saturday comes, we're getting ready for the event. The only thing that hit me for the red flag was the night before I had seen some of the guests that were staying with us having cocktails. Now, when you say you're not having a bar, I'm thinking clearly you're not having a bar for the whole weekend, right? Because that's part of our policies. So next day, and it's kind of just ticking with me. And remind you, we've got kids. So we're not totally naive. And I'm like, okay, why is it they're not having a bar? They just are against it, totally, which is great. Maybe religion or beliefs, whatever it is, they just don't drink. And I was fine with it. Come to find out later on, as we start the event, we're going through, we notice people that are going in the parking lot and then coming back out of their cars. Well, it ended up being that my clients had told them at some point, or there was some unknown idea that they could BYOB. So we ended up sitting there and having to vet the guests that were coming in and out with security, throwing bottles away and tossing the liquor that they didn't want to have, but the guests that were coming in wanted to have. So I think that, if you're not going to have a bar, that's a really big red flag. Just make sure you vet that with your clients on what that looks like, what your rules are. That was probably one of my bigger red flags. Other than that, I don't have a big issue with any of my couples. One of the things I think I always tell my couples when they come in is make sure you shop your venue. We would love to book every bride and groom that comes in here. But I think that there's a vision for a couple that they really want. And I think that they need to make sure they follow through with what that looks like. I don't want to have, some kind of anticipation or some kind of a different thought, or them having a different thought of what we provide or what they want. Because when you come and you book at the ranch, like right then you should know. I mean, obviously you might want a little time after the tour and you might want to think about it, but
Hmm.
know your venue. And I always encourage my brides and grooms that come in, they're like, I've got another couple of venues to, and you should vet out what venue works best for
Yeah.
everything that you want in your weekend. Because when I have my couple, I want them to be here and be ecstatic. If they're kind of on the fence and they're not sure, maybe financially that might be one, totally understandable. Two, does it fit the needs of, maybe having a destination and traveling for their wedding? Those are things that bride and groom should really, really make sure that they're okay with. I had one bride that came in and she came in for 3 tours. First one, she came in spring and she's like, okay, I'm going to come back in summer and check it out. I'm like, okay. And this was in the beginning when the ranch first started. And then I had an appointment with her in spring, and then she came in fall. And so when she came in fall, now remind you, that's pretty much our seasons was spring, summer, fall. Um, so she came back in fall and we had a conversation. I toured her again. Of course, I would love to have her. But in thinking on this third tour, we were walking through the property and she says to me, she says, I'm going to come back again. And I said, like to tour? she's, she's like, yeah, I want one more look. I'm just not sure. And I literally had to turn around to her and I said, the ranch loves every single couple and we want you to be happy wherever you're going to get married at. And we'd love to book you. But if you've been here 3 times and you're just not feeling it, or this vibe is not for you, I just don't think that the ranch is going to be what she wants in her wedding. Not after 3 tours. I normally have 1 tour and then maybe a follow-up call with some questions. And we usually book if we're going to book. But for that bride, I think it was really important in a vision that she had. And so I wanted her to be able to have that, but it wasn't going to be here. If
Hmm.
you're going to be here 3 times and you've gone through 3 tours and we've had conversations and logistics, I think that that's probably too many times. And I think that she needed to go with the venue that best fit her needs.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So those are red flag. I mean, liquor's probably a red flag. Um, making sure that your couple's happy no matter wherever they book. But as far as like big issues, we have great families. Knock on wood, we haven't had, to the point where we've ever had to shut down or any kind of issue or have that, event not working right. But you never know. We're still learning, we're still growing. So hopefully we don't have any more big red flags, but I'm sure there's always a learning curve with everything.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Well, we're gonna do a little fun question. You ready for this? This is gonna
I
be fun. So, I told you what a simp is, right?
okay. Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna
Yes.
tell me if this is a simp or is this a nice guy? If he tells a girl, "You're way out of my league, but I'll be here for you no matter what."
Oh God. You tell me.
I want to hear from you first, and then I'll tell you how I feel.
No, because when we talked about this, what was SIF? Is that what it's called? It
Simp.
is.
Is he trying too hard to get to this girl to get some action, or is he just a nice guy? So I'll say the quote again. You're way out of my league, but I'll be here for you no matter what.
Oh God.
Is he a nice guy or is he trying too hard being a simp?
I always am like on the other side of like positive. So I'm gonna say he's a nice guy. What's your thought?
Oh, I think he's simping.
Now tell me why.
Well, the reason why is because he's already telling her that basically she's better than him, already
Yeah.
admitting defeat. So he's doubling down like that he's not as good. He's not at her league. So he's doubling down. He's basically letting her know that she can do better than him. You're way out of my league, but yet he's going to do everything he can to prove himself, which I think there's a psychology part in relationship is that you don't want to really make them think that they can do better than you and you're going to do everything you can for them. That means they can take advantage. You're saying, yes, take advantage of me while you can because you're
No.
at a higher league than me. Um, that's like
Which
going
is
to,
kind of crazy, right? I mean, if you really care about someone, all of that, you know what I mean? It doesn't, and you love someone, you're going to be there and build no matter what.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
So maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that's, I'm going to have to like get more expertise on this and kind of, now it's going to have me thinking all the time. No, good God. Well, let's hope it's the nice guy syndrome
yeah. I
and
mean,
that he's just a kind guy, but that could change a lot. And how do you start a relationship like that?
what was that?
Well, that's a lot, if you get into that and he's like, you're in a better, I mean, how do you get through your relationship? Is that something that later on you're going to have to deal with?
Well, it's basically guys are letting themselves being taken advantage of it at some points, and not every guy is like this, but sometimes some guys they'll let people take advantage of them, and it's like they're kind of there's like a sign of desperation when
Yeah, yeah,
it's
definitely.
showing he's desperate to me.
Yeah. I think that yeah, that's a whole nother, I think the word for it is perfect.
Yeah.
Say it again. It's called a what?
Simp,
Spell it?
SIMP.
Oh God. Yep. Yeah.
And that's all I have for today.
Yeah, that's my closing note. That's my last right there.
Yeah.
What is your red flag? What would be your red flag when you are booking a couple? What are some of the biggest, I would say probably your top red flag when you meet with a couple? Or I guess what is it that they kind of reach out, whether it's through your email or your page or Instagram or social platforms. And then once they reach out, obviously you might have a meeting with that couple. And then you go through the process of how you book them. But what is a red flag for you as far as when you're booking a couple and you're also going through that day of event?
I would say when they get a little too demanding during the booking process or during the consultation, when they start getting demanding. Now, every situation is different, but sometimes some people will even see my contract and they're asking me to make some changes, and I'm like, well, I had this on the contract for a reason. Um, I would say another red flag is when a bride is already complaining about her fiance during the consultation.
Oh no.
And it's happened a few times. I've actually booked.
Like complaining, like basic complaining, like, maybe girls or guys do, or is it to the point where it's like very big
They feel
key
like
points?
when they feel like they're doing more of the wedding planning than their fiance, and they're sort of upset about how they're not helping with the whole planning process. And that part is true, but talk to your fiance about that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and it's not like just, I don't think it's anything. I think that it's just the way that it's been. I think that a lot of brides do have a certain idea of what that wedding's going to look like.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've seen like the TikToks where the girl's like all stressed out and she's checking through list and there's the groom, he's on the couch and having a cocktail on his phone and it's plenty. And I think that there's a lot of brides that want the whole day, but I do believe that there are, couples that work through that want to do it together. But I can say probably 80% that I've seen are most of the time the brides that are actually planning the wedding.
yeah, and I also feel like it could be hard when like with anything else, like if someone's planning an event and they have to have it a certain way, and there's certain vendors that they want to have over there, and they want things to have a certain style. It can be to the point where, well, they've already done all this without me. It's kind of hard for me to come in and have a say. It's like even like a job, like
Oh, wow. Yeah.
you're at a job and you're doing your part and as an employee, and um maybe one of the supervisors has this whole other idea of what they're doing with the company, and it's kind of really hard to intervene into what their vision is when they kind of already have a lot of things set in stone, and you're kind of like been out of the loop for a while. So,
Yeah. I think that is a challenge. I think that there's things that maybe men are a little bit more easygoing on, and it's like, okay, the flowers, you're deciding. I usually, the groom, the guys will come in, and most of the time they're like food. My experience is that they're like, no, we want, the food is a lot of what they want to be involved in.
mm.
Um, Obviously cocktail hour, what their groomsmen are wearing, so those pieces, and then I think the bride really picks up a lot of those other pieces. Now, mind you, I think I had 3 grooms last year that actually planned the whole entire wedding,
Oh yeah, I've seen a few of those. Yeah.
which they've done phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah,
it's whoever is doing it as long as their vision is creating and that's what they want. But yeah, I think that it's kind of it's a little bit old school thinking, but not, discriminating at all. It's just
yeah,
sometimes a lot of the brides will, that's what they want and that's what they know. And the guys are so good with it, they're like, I love you, babe.
yeah.
Whatever your day wants to be.
I'll just go with it. There's times where when they're complaining about their fiance, and it's like, do you know when you guys get married, you're gonna deal with this a lot more? So are you gonna keep complaining to like other people? Like I won't be around to for them to complain to, but I mean, are they gonna complain to their friends and family about them? And like those, I would say sometimes those are sort of red flags. I remember having one that really complained about her fiance a little too much, and she was sort of a little hectic on the wedding day. Like she was, with everyone, she was like kind of like a little too demanding, and it was like I remember me and the photographer, we were talking, and I was like, you know what? I've seen these red flags even during the consultation, and I saw this coming. So,
Oh God, oh
you
God.
know.
What's our red flag for a venue with a videographer?
Ooh, red flag. I wouldn't say it's a red flag. I would say the commonest complaint I hear from a lot of videographers in different Facebook groups is when they're not being fed during dinner time.
Oh,
So, I learned how to navigate around that because there are some venues that decide, oh, we're gonna feed you when the guests already have their plates, and then we can't work with that. So, like, I have to be prepared to how to navigate around that.
yeah,
But
no, because you guys are the beginning of when it all starts, and you guys are right there. I mean, you're their tail person the whole entire day, making sure that you're capturing everything that they want. So I agree. I think that you should be fed when the bride and the groom are fed. I think we had this little bit of a conversation. Um, I love the caterers that come in and if they provide extra food for staff, that's fantastic. I hate asking. I really don't think that that's something that our couples have to do. If they involve it and they want to, perfect, that's awesome. But I think there's a couple of people that do need to be fed
Mhm.
just because they're rolling with that bride the whole day.
Yeah,
Definitely a coordinator needs to be fed because they're on their feet and they're moving the whole time, pivoting. Wedding photography and videography is the other one. You guys start exactly when they start and it's on rolling, and you don't get a break that whole entire time because you're trying to capture everything. I mean, you're that's part of everything you do. So the only thing I think the few minutes that you get is actually taking some dinner time while the bride and groom are eating. And it's not like you're getting this hour-long lunch. I mean,
exactly.
you're like, you're sucking down the food because you've got to use the restroom, get ready, refilm, do all of that, package up, charge. I've seen you guys come in with this equipment and you guys are like dragging these, you've got these bags and there's just a lot that goes to it. And people don't know behind the scenes how much there is involved in that. So I really do feel like you guys should be fed. It shouldn't be a question at all. And if there's extra in the bride and groom, provide that, fantastic. If not, other vendors should be, ready to
Yeah.
do what they need to do because technically it's not their job. Um, I do think that a great coordinator in creating that timeline and also communication that
Mhm.
we've talked about is key with that. You lay that out, when you're having those month end meetings or that last month and make sure that you know who's on that page, who is getting fed, why is that important? And I think that that's a very, very big detail that people don't think of because they'll just see like, the guests or whatever see like maybe, you know, the videographer or the, photographer getting food or the, and they might, judge that, but
Mhm.
they don't know behind the scenes of what's been decided and what needs to happen in
Yeah.
order to make that day perfect. You guys are rolling that whole time and that's when you need to take that time to at least eat.
And they want to do it early because by the time all the guests have their plate, they're gonna start toast usually right when everybody has their plate of food. If they were to wait till after everybody has their plate, then there's not enough time for us to set up and be ready to film by toast usually.
No, I think that you guys should be shuffled in right then, grabbing your plate right after the bride and groom. That way
Exactly.
you guys are the key players in that next, position. It's kind of a game day. It's a beautiful event, but a lot of people don't know how detailed that whole entire day is. I mean, we've got a list of hair and makeup that are coming in. You've got dinner set at a certain time. You've got photography, you've got family photos. You go in and you eat, and then you've got toast, and then the DJ set up. I mean, it's this consistent game that's going on, and there's a big plan to make sure that everything gets hit. And then
Yeah.
right after that, boom, you've got sunset, you got golden hour, you're going in that. We need dance photos. Got to get those.
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
I've seen in like different groups and online on social media, I've seen people even say, if they were at a regular job, would they expect the company to feed them? And then my response always to that is,
Mm,
at a regular job, they can leave for an hour and go to a fast food restaurant and grab themselves some food and then come back later. At a wedding, they don't really have that much time. They don't have a whole hour. And if they were to leave for a whole hour to go get food, they're gonna miss out on possibly toast, the father-daughter dance, the mother-son dance. They're gonna miss out on a lot of stuff. So
seriously.
it's a huge difference.
I mean, really, and what do you want? Is it more important not to feed those few vendors than it
Yeah,
is to not have them capture everything? I
exactly.
mean, what's your time and money worth? I mean, if you're going to go in there and you're really like, ooh, do we have to feed in three extra people? I
Yeah.
mean, if it's
Like you,
$20 a plate or whatever it is, it's yes, it's super important because those people are handling that whole entire day.
yeah. I always feel like if you want people to do a good job on your biggest day of your life, one of your biggest days of your life, take care of them. Take care of, everybody that you want to give you that you want everyone to do a good job on.
It's
So,
a very busy day. Even with my staff, I prepare, way ahead. I don't expect our couples to feed them, but I'm already going, hey, we might,
yeah.
say we're getting into ceremony, and that's always that big game time, right? We're placing the vendors, we've got, DJ set up at ceremony, guests are coming in, whether it's pre-cocktail or not, or you've got another situation. But I'm thinking the whole time, like, okay, making sure that that's all going down, making sure the coordinators where she's at, parking staff is doing phenomenal, security is ready. You're ready for that open door reveal for that bride to come through.
Mhm.
The last thing I need to do is worry about my staff eating. So I always pre-plan, like if we're not going to get fed or there's no food, 100%, because I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing in that next. We could have logistically something because things happen.
Yeah.
We had a trailer bar come in, we had a photo bus, we had a couple of others that was drawing a lot of power. Now, mind you, we put in a lot of power everywhere, So we're pretty capable, but we had so much equipment going. And I think what ended up being the end result was this trailer was pulling a lot more, this bar trailer was pulling a lot more power. Well, I lost power on the left side of the property. So the last thing I'm going to be worried about is making sure that the staff's fed because I got to get power on that just kind of went down for a minute. So there's so many moving pieces in a day. The last thing I need anybody to do is fall apart. First of all, we're trying to make sure this perfect day goes perfect. And I don't need staff falling apart. I don't need to make sure, you know what I mean? Like we pack snack. We just make sure that we are ready to go at any time because it's a big day and there's not this moment of, hey, let's stop for an hour. It's just
Yeah.
not realistic. You know, you've got to keep moving and make sure that it all rolls. So whether it's feeding, hydrating, using the restroom, we're ready to go. And it's not um, anybody's responsibility most of the time for the vendor, but there are some key players in that day, including you and the coordinators that need to be fed. Or what would you want from a venue? Or, you know, I think we talked about a couple of red flags, like you were saying, maybe the couple and the communications and bagging on the
You know what's always great from the venue is when they tell me where I can store my gear. You know, I feel bad sometimes having my gear somewhere where it's visible, but at the same time, I don't want my gear like so far away because I need to get to it. But you know,
right.
I always go to every venue trying to figure out where because I bring like a wagon with some gear and I try to
Right.
lately I've been trying to compress it as much as I possibly can, so it's not so much stuff. I'm always looking for where I can put my stuff that is not so visible and where it's safe and where the venue's okay with it. You know, sometimes I spend a good 10 minutes looking for a good spot.
Have you ever struggled with that at the ranch? Do you usually use our staging room and place your equipment in there?
I remember at your guys' place, I put it by it was by your office.
Oh yeah, it did.
Yeah.
We're actually, it'll be nice this year because we're doing the floors and stuff in there. So we'll have a little bit more open space for our vendors to be able to, but I think that's a huge part. Like, where do you put your stuff? And
Yeah.
it's not just, you know, a box or one bag. I mean, you've got film, you've got, I mean, and there's so, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is that your guys' equipment, as well as any other vendors, it's expensive.
Mhm.
Um, DJ's another one. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so, and that's probably my longest thing of any wedding is watching I'm here to the closing every Saturday and the DJ, wow.
Yeah. And they got those speakers.
I got wires and they're probably going for the next. I mean, there's just a lot, but I think that's a great question. Where can you safely put any of your equipment? And hopefully the venue has a spot for that and can accommodate that because there is a lot of stuff that you have and you don't want it sitting right where the photo booth is or right where people are looking at it because it's not really unsightly. Most of the time it's bagged.
Hmm.
I think first of all, most is safety for your equipment just because, you know, it's expensive. And then second, where could it not look like an eyesore? Same with the bar. I hate boxes being at the bar. I think that it's just, so I try to provide a space for all of that where we can move it, get it out of the way so it's not in the look or in anybody's way, but it's also not damaged. So I think that's a great key point. I'll make sure that I have a special spot for your stuff.
No, I think usually I'm pretty flexible with every venue, so I don't really have anything that really actually bothers me. I think that's just the first thing I look for.
I think that
Um,
would be nice that we make sure that we do have that because we want to make
yeah.
sure that you're able to work and pivot in your area as well.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, and I actually like, I think where I put my stuff at your place last time, it worked for me because I know it was right between the ceremony and the reception.
Yeah.
So it was in the middle, all that, and I was able to figure out where I can move my stuff. But I know with some venues, it might be a little bit difficult. Sometimes like smaller and tighter venues, I know they can have that problem as well. Like in some places, it's like making sure there's enough time on the timeline to transition as well. That's the hardest part. When you're going from ceremony to the family portraits and then the couple portraits and then the grand entrance. You know, some venues are different and it's easier to transition. And some venues are like maybe bigger or there's a lot more moving around that's required. So transitioning can be a little bit more difficult in some places, but it's just having enough time to transition from ceremony to grand entrance. That's where my second shooter comes in handy for that
Well,
situation.
yeah, you know, and luckily here with the ranch, it's kind of that middle building where we have the staff room and all that's kind of that nice little in between. But you could get into venues, and we've gone to events where your ceremonies, you know, down this like really pretty area where it's all covered, and then you're going on one other whole side to get to the, you know, and they'll have a couple of events going at one time.
Yeah.
So you're pivoting and then, oh, oops, not that way, and you're trying to get around. So that I think that that definitely could be something that's a great key point. I don't know if
Mhm.
we've ever, I'm sure our coordinator has thought about, I leave that stuff for her because she does the detail and I do the logistics of the ranch. So I think that's a key point that I'd like to take with us to make sure that we're covering for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a huge difference from like the videographers moving around and transitioning versus like photographers, because photographers don't necessarily have to carry that many cameras. And sometimes they can
Right.
do everything on with just maybe one or two cameras, and they'll have a lens and then they'll have a bag maybe, but they can carry everything. They don't need like a whole wagon of tripods and everything.
Right.
Um
They've got all their like their bands that they normally walk around with in their second shooter. You guys are either moving from a drone to your
yeah.
to drone equipment to a video equipment. And I've seen smaller cinematography. I mean, there's a lot of different pieces.
But
Well, awesome.
yeah. So
Man, Brian, I love your work. I love
thank
the
you.
shoot that we did. I love the winter shoot. I look forward to having more work with you.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you. This was great. I enjoyed being at your venue, and I enjoyed doing this podcast with you. Look, we went on for like a little over an hour, so
And I
um,
think if and I love your work, and I believe you're on our preferred vendor list, and
oh, thank you.
I'd love to see you here more because you're it's phenomenal. The drone work, the photos, and that's not just what you're capturing; it's all of the editing and the details on the back what we have talked about. Because there's
Yeah,
hours that people don't understand that goes into really making sure that that's all pieced together.
yeah, thank
And
you.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Same. I enjoy working at that venue.